Oh my goodness me. I have not heard the song yet before. Actually, I know. Can you believe it?
I've dabbled in love since maybe every other summer. It never lasts long.
Oh, and then she's taken us to church. I absolutely love that. I do not attend any type of church, but I tell you, I'd fucking attend church if Raye was bloody singing at it. I tell you, I'd become very religious. Kia ora and welcome. My name's Awish TV and I'm your vocal coach for today to say that I'm excited about today's analysis. We're going to do our best to take a look at Raye with Nightingale Lane at the BET Awards. She is the most incredible singer. I don't need to tell you that. We're going to be taking a look at what is she up to with this sound? How is she creating it? And most importantly, how can you create it? So let's take a look at her vocal technique. And if you want to learn more about how to sing like your favorite artist, hit the subscribe button so we can hang out more often. Honestly, I'd love to help you with your vocal technique. I don't know why. I don't know you. I don't know why I just blew your kisses. But anyway, I'm in the mood.
This is a song about the greatest heartbreak I have ever known. This song is called Nightingale Lane. On a street in the South London suburbs is where my first love kissed me goodbye. His lips were thin and beer-stained and tear-stained, was a pain that made me cold and all. After the oceans I cried, I'm made of steel, just floating now.
I have not heard the song yet before. Actually, I know. Can you believe it? But I live under a rock. So we've got very large jazz influences. We know this about Raye, but we go this going to the vibrato at the end of the phrase, increasing the thyroid tilt, thinning out the vocal folds just as she's finishing. It's a lovely coloring technique often used in jazz singing. Let's just go back on that again.
On a street in the South London suburbs is where my first love kissed me goodbye. His lips were thin and beer-stained and tear-stained, was a pain that made me cold and all. After the oceans I cried, I'm made of steel, just floating now. But when I drive,
oh my goodness me. So she's just such a look. What she's doing here is honestly, it seems so easy. But this takes years of practice and honing your art as a singer and an artist in order to make these decisions. So we're hearing thin, and she's closing on the N. Now, usually in singing, we would say we sing on the vowels, and I'm using inverted commas because that's in very specific classical technique. So this idea of going thin, and going to the closed N and continuing on with the sound is extremely jazz, but it's also very contemporary in the way that she's using it. Going again to that vibrato at the end of the phrase and just using a different coloring technique. It makes us think about that the sound's being very held back, very intimate in the way that she is producing the sound, as well as being quite low volume. And we're not seeing huge, I could like wax lyrical for ages about her vowel shapes.
his lips were thin and beer-stained and tear-stained, was a pain that made me cold and all. After the oceans I cried, I'm made of steel, just floating now. But when I drive down this road, I reminisce. I drive slow, I've let him go now. I just see a ghost town, and sometimes at red.
So we consider I just see a boundary. This quite thin vocal fold through this first section of the song. So the vocal folds when we're singing louder or in the chest voice, they are thick. And when we're singing higher in the range or when we're singing quieter, they go thin. And that sort of almost like darkening of the sound is when we use a little bit of dropping of the larynx because that creates the darkening of the tone, but also a dropping of the back of the tongue. But again, I can't quite see her mouth enough to really like get a sense of what's going on there. We're going to go back on this because I really want you to notice the way in which she's changing that. Wow, wow, wow. She's almost using her mouth position as well as like the mute on a trumpet. This is very typical of jazz vocal technique.
Just floating now, but when I drive down this road, road. I reminisce. I drive slow, I've let him go now. I just see a ghost town, and sometimes at red lights with closed eyes, I tell myself, in fact, I tell myself to go on, just say somebody loved me once.
Okay, we need to go back on that because we have to say, oh, the vibrato, the control. She's really holding the back, the breath, the thin vocal folds, higher up in the range. Shit loads of thyroid tilt throughout all of this. Thyroid tilt is when we take, so the thyroid is this here, it's where the vocal folds live, and we would tilt the thyroid cartilage forward. It allows the vocal folds to thin, but it also is the main difference between speaking and singing. So, please, if you are actually wanting to improve your singing, like in general, then I really suggest my favorite vocal warm-up. And I am not the biggest fan of like random shitty warm-ups. So I actually have a free warm-up for you down in the description below. It's my favorite exercise. It's called the siren exercise. And honestly, if you're wanting to sing this song, you got to master the siren.
I just see a ghost town, and sometimes at red lights with closed eyes, I tell myself, in fact, I tell myself to go on, just say somebody loved me once, and someday.
And we can say, we've got a wider mouth shape there. Okay, let's keep. So, sometimes when I say that's not very high, I'm a high soprano, right? I'm a professional singer. So, for me, that doesn't sound very high. And for Raye, I know that that's not very high in her range. Height's got nothing to do with vocal ability, though. It's like as you work on your voice, you end up being able to sing higher and lower anyway. But the D5 is actually within the thin vocal folds, totally easy for a lot of singers. That is just something that we have to work towards to get that thinner vocal folds or the head voice functioning a little bit better in a lot of singers, especially females who haven't trained it.
Love me once, and someday somebody will again, like the way you loved me on Nightingale. And though we never made it, stranger, just show me it's true. I'm capable of loving someone.
Oh, I just love the way that can you hear that it just feels like she's expressing herself fully in these moments. You just really feel like, and this is, I have to say, this isn't just like, she's just not singing like, she probably is singing freely in these moments, but this is because of all the training that's come before. She can allow herself, or she is able to let go and express herself with her voice because she has spent so much time actually training the instrument, that she knows where she needs to go. This is not something that a beginner singer is able to do by any stretch of the imagination. So let's just go back on that to watch the way in which she's playing with the colors of the sound. I love that. And Nightingale Lane, there's a bit of the constrictors coming in there, which are part of the swallowing mechanism, and also a bit of the tongue tension. Nightingale Lane. It just adds a little bit of harshness, a little bit of like, some people might call it like overdrive or something. I like to say it's like a little bit of pressure, a little bit of extra effect on the sound.
Though we never made it, stranger, just show me it's true. I'm capable of loving someone. The way I love you, it was so right there. Early June, next to Old Park Avenue, standing in the rain, I watched him walk away.
You saw that standing in the rain, same thing again, standing in the rain. It's constrictor, bit of the tongue coming in there. The way that she's moving these sounds is, look, I am not a jazz singer, but I do sing jazz in certain circumstances. Sorry, these gummy bands on my braces are like, I have to wear them. Yeah, otherwise my orthodontist will tell me off. But also they're really annoying when it comes to singing. So I do recommend, if you, and I don't wear them when I do like sing normally, but for this I'm trying to leave them in. So we got standing in the rain. going in and out of those thick and thin vocal folds. This is really about mastering the thick and the thin. So going, and mastering all of these these particular isolation exercises that we do in our vocal lessons. That's actually something that we're looking on, exactly that exercise. Funnily enough, we're going to be doing this Sunday inside my online singing school, the Vocal Academy. We're looking at the difference between falsetto and thin vocal folds. And that one, going from like thick to thin to breathy back to thin, and then back to thick, is the way in which we are able to train these types of sounds by doing those isolation exercises away from our songs.
I've dabbled in love since maybe every other summer. It never lasts long, they never stick around. I'm made of steel now. I believe someday someone will come along and knock them walls down. Knock them walls down,
Oh my goodness me. This is just, there is so much to look at here. And I'm just going to say, like, there's no way that I can really fully dissect everything that's going on in her vocals, because we would, honestly, this video would be like then 2 hours long, right? If we're really going through bit by bit. So I was just trying to figure out like what was going on in that sound. You know, jazz singers spend years and years and years and years and years training their ears, actually. So, of course, it is about training the voice, but especially in jazz vocals, it is a lot about training the ears, because that sort of like seemingly easy run, and I'm going to say easy, I'm using I'm using literally air quotes and like so much of my fucking stuff at the moment. I'm so sorry. But to do something that appears to be so easy is extremely difficult, especially at the beginning. And learning these scales by themselves is extremely important. So if you are wanting to sing songs like this, or even jazz, or you're looking to basically just, honestly, every singer should be training their ears, okay? I think that it's not talked about enough. And any singing teacher out there who tells you that, like, you don't need to do that, like, fuck them. To be a good singer, you got to do some ear training.
I've dabbled in love since maybe every other summer. It never lasts long, they never stick around. I'm made of steel now. I believe someday someone will come along and knock them walls down. Knock them walls down, baby.
So that knock down walls down, baby. That is the twang coming in there. So twang is a tightening of the area above that. Knock down walls down, baby. And we can't always just tense one set of muscles. So we're always doing other things at once. So it's probably a little bit of constrictions, a little bit of the tongue coming in there, but we're really focusing on that sound in order to, this is just colors. I like to say to my singing students inside the academy, I like to say to them, like, think about this as being like literally like, this is blue and this is blue and there are other blues, like we're looking at the entire palette of the sound. So this is this is my baby, and going in and out of these sorts of sounds. And honestly, that flexibility is what not only like makes us fall in love with Raye, but also like that is what makes us better vocalists.
Right here on this ground is where someone once loved me.
Okay, we're going to get to that classical section. So I want, oh gosh, what am I doing here? I want you to think about that. Actually going into this classical section is not that far away from what she's been doing so far with the thin vocal folds. So when she's going into that section, thin vocal folds, there's just not a lot of lowering of the larynx going on there. Lots of thyroid tilt, holding back the breath, really working in those back muscles. And we're going to go back on this. So ghost town. She's just changed the vowel there, dropped the larynx slightly and rounded the lips. Ghost instead of ghost town. A lot of it has to do with the larynx position. And this would be something that you would look at in plotting the song, of really like going, okay, there I'm going to be changing gear, there I'm going to be changing larynx position to make sure that we're making those transitions through the song.
Right here on this ground is where someone once loved me.
And then I'm not to say it's the same, so right here on this ground, she's kept those thin vocal folds, which is quite a classical thing to do. Right here on this town, instead of going right here on this town. So you hear the acoustic difference. Right here on this town, or ground, I think. Keeping those thin vocal folds down. And that is about making sure that we're not making those changes, because then now she's going, someone once told me. There would be too much of a change in terms of the vocal timbre beforehand. So maybe that's just what she's decided, to keep those thin vocal folds, give it a bit more of that classical sound, and drop that larynx. And funny that that's actually where everyone starts. I mean, look, it's beautiful, but like that's where everyone starts clapping. But notice the neck work that's going on when she goes singing high, because actually singing high and in thin vocal folds often requires a lot more muscularity and a lot more muscle engagement in the upper back than singing in a louder vocal quality when you are more used to singing a louder vocal quality. Look, I have to admit, it kind of sounds like Raye is a little bit tired in this sound. How can I hear? Because, as I say, I haven't heard the song, but I've heard her sing quite a lot. There's like some moments where her voice is kind of like skipping and not quite coming together. I'm not saying this in any way, shape or form to judge a singer. I just think that especially when we were looking at like one snapshot performance, it isn't a way to really get an idea of their entire vocal ability or their vocal technique. So we can see there though, today, she's using more neck anchoring in order to reach that sound. Relaxed mouth position. Relaxed mouth position, more of an oh. That's creating more of that. That's that classical rounded vowel. And that's really that woo. It's not necessarily about creating more space here. It's about creating more space here by dropping the larynx. That's where what we're really looking for, especially in the resonance factor. Oh, and then she's taken us to church. I absolutely love that. I do not attend any type of church, but I tell you, I'd fucking attend church if Raye was bloody singing at it. I tell you, I'd become very religious. So we've got, did you notice that she did go, well, what are you going to notice? I'm noticing it, I'm telling you. She changed the, yeah, and she did not move the jaw. That's what we ultimately want. The jaw doesn't have anything to do with the fucking pitch, okay? It's really hard for me to open my mouth up really more, but we got the we need that slightly wider vowel, especially when we're going into a louder voice quality. We've got an increase in the twang. Higher larynx. She's really kind of staying in the slipstream of that thicker vocal fold up there, but with that twang going on, there's we're not getting a darkening of the sound. She's playing with the constrictors and playing with the vowel to shape the sound. I'm just going to interrupt that right there. I was about to go into a riff that I like to do on a different song. So we got, she doesn't have to go back like that when she's singing, but I get really excited. So when we're going back, though, we're engaging those upper muscles of the back and the head and that. And with that wow increase in the twang there, it just like sounds super exciting. It also helps us to keep the vocal folds thicker as we're going higher. I absolutely love Keke Palmer. That was pretty good. She's fantastic. So especially when we're going higher in the range, we want to make the decision about how much twang we're adding and how high we want the larynx to go. Obviously, the larynx has to raise for our pitch. So when we take the larynx to a point where it is like the larynx height determines how bright the sound is. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. So what she was doing there, she wasn't taking the larynx super high because we were getting quite a resonant sound on there. Obviously, it's very dependent on the singer. We did hear a little bit constriction coming in, but especially when you're like just singing one song, I always like to say you can kind of like throw quite a lot more spaghetti at the wall, and it doesn't really, it's like the last note and just added that more expressive kind of quality. And it's not in this moment, and especially in that moment of expressiveness, it is not about perfect singing at that moment. Really what we would want to be not doing is coughing or catching. But Raye is like, she's a professional singer. She's her own, she knows exactly what she's doing. So she'll know how far she can take that. It's very different when you're singing one song as opposed to singing, say, for an hour and a half, the way that you manage your voice in those moments. So Raye, wow. I cannot believe that I haven't listened to this. I need to listen to it again in my own private moments because I feel like it was a lot that I missed out there. But let me know what you think about Nightingale. What was your favorite moment in that performance? Because I love Raye's way that she paints a picture of what's going on in her life. And I feel like I can't necessarily see myself in her, but I see her as a really person I can relate to. And also the way that she expresses her singing. She's not and I think this comes out of because I'm classically trained. Okay. So in the classical world, especially when I was coming through the classical world, there was a lot of don't move your arms around and things like that. And I'm very much getting into what Raye's kind of doing, lots of movement coming out of my own expressiveness. And I'm just really loving that about her as well. On this big stage, no shoes. This is just feel like she's just such a fantastic singer and yeah, I love the way that she is expressing herself. So I want to hear from you down there in the comments. Have a look at some more Raye up here. And just, I love helping singers to really find their expressiveness in their voices and find what really truly makes them them. And this is through giving them or giving you more opportunity to be able to do more with your voice. There's no way that you can just grab a song like this. And I don't want you to be a carbon copy of Raye, but we learn through copying. But we learn as well through isolated exercises that we then build a bridge to the song, and then we build a bridge to the next song. And that's exactly why at my online singing school, I make sure that every single singer has their own personal pathway. They know exactly what they need to be practicing, how they need to be practicing it. And that is what I want for you. This is not an easy sing. I know that you can get there though. And everyone can learn to sing if you're learning with me, because it's not about one size fits all. Okay. Some of these techniques, they're going to, they will work for you, but sometimes we just need these little tweaks of the technique to really have it make sense for you, especially, and also to have it work for you. How long is your tongue? What's your physiology and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I'd love to help you. You can apply for the Vocal Academy down in the description below. I just want to say everyone can learn to sing. You just have to learn how to use this amazing instrument. Anyway, I've really got to go to rehearsal. So happy singing. Ka kite anō.